That's a bit of an interesting one. As you mentioned, Hokori aren't the only squad in South America still sort of putting that CK out there occasionally, but when I say occasionally, I truly do mean it. I mean, it does come out. Vitali very much capable of playing it, especially in that sort of offlane position, but it feels a little bit strange. Is it a possibility? Obviously, of course it is. Vitali can play it, but it's a bit of a strange ban given the circumstances. But if you're the cut, here in game two, I think they're maybe just a little bit afraid of just getting sort of run over. And the Chaos Knight in that position 3 role, especially with the Magnus to buff him up, it could have been a hero that they would have some serious difficulties with. So it's still a bit of a strange ban, even if it does fit, but if you're the cut, it's the choice that they make. CK taken away, the Ancient Apparition now picked up as well. So, well, generally going to be pretty good in lane. The Ice Blast maybe doesn't have the greatest amount of setup right now. Maybe that back wall sort of gives him an opportunity, but there is also the chance that he could actually turn the Faceless Void's aggression against him. If that Void catches teammates inside of his own Chrono, then your Ancient Apparition might be able to punish that. So the Faceless Void will just have to be that little bit more careful about where and when he throws that Chronosphere out there.
And to Hokori, we could see maybe them pick up that Snapfire, but I doubt it, as I don't think they want to slot this Magnus into any position next. If I were them, I would want to pick Analog's hero, but it looks like instead just going to pick up the Doom. This is a hero we really haven't seen a lot of, despite seeing it banned, I believe, earlier today. It's a hero that's really picked few and far between, but it does make a little bit of sense, especially versus the Darkseer. You find him, you beat him down. The only issue is if you aren't getting on top of the Darkseer, it's very easy for him to put an Ion Shell with that Aghanim Scepter, give them that HP burst, surge him out, and if you don't have enough lockdown, he's just going to be able to escape. And going to mention it, but SMD, Wraith King is still in the pool and you have a Faceless Void. I'm surprised they really didn't take it out because it just feels like a dead ringer at this point.
And it's a hero that also maybe doesn't have to care entirely, or isn't quite at that point, but a hero who is significantly less afraid of that Doom. So your Wraith King is going to be a little bit more adept, probably makes for a slightly less valuable target for Hokori to try and hit up, and that's not even taking into account the fact that it's just going to straight up do damage. Unless this Wraith King gets completely and totally shut down, we should be seeing Scourge having quite a bit of an impact on these fights. So the Wraith King, yeah, probably the best that the cut would have been able to do in this situation, and as you said, it is a little bit strange that Hokori didn't necessarily anticipate that earlier on with those bans.
Well, in the same vein as whenever you want to pick Troll Warlord, you always ban out Razor. Whenever you pick Faceless Void, typically you ban out the Wraith King. And with this Doom, maybe they were preempting it, maybe they were thinking about it a little bit, but Doom is definitely a better fit than, let's say, Tide Hunter, where you have these two massive spells that you want to, blow one on the first life and then hopefully kill his teammates and then save one for the second life. Then that could be where they're thinking. But at the same time, if this Wraith King is surged running at you, you have to be really careful if you're this Lion, if you're this Magnus that's not going to have too much farm. It feels like the Wraith King, as of right now, really has a lot of targets. And Hokori, thinking about what mid laner they're going to pick up, they don't have, like, a Puck. They don't have those very elusive heroes. It's going to be interesting what Analog ends up playing. I'm a little bit worried, though. Having last pick is going to be pretty nice for them, but at the same time, I'm not really certain what Hokori want, because you even see them, both sides are digging into that mid lane pool.
Yeah, absolutely. The cut, Queen of Pain and Viper taken away. Hokori, meanwhile, already banning out the Leshrac, so it's a bit of a double-edged sword. You don't want to let any of those sort of solid mid picks through at this stage, but in doing so, you are sort of hurting your own chances of setting up for a favorable lane. So, very much interested to see the choice for Hokori. It is going to be the Kunkka that they'll remove there with that final ban, and the cut, pretty quick in with the pick, the Storm. You're picking Storm into a pretty substantial amount of lockdown on the other side. That does seem a little bit risky, but a lot of that lockdown for Hokori is kind of big wind-up spells, your Chrono, your Doom, your RP, etc. So if you're not willing to sort of throw one of those big ults out there to try and sort of wrangle in a Storm Spirit, then maybe Red 2 has a little bit more leeway to operate with on this Storm pick.
Well, and it's just a Red 2 classic. You can't be too afraid. I would be a little bit afraid if they do end up picking, let's say, TA for Hokori right now. That'd be a little bit annoying for sure, especially with how sort of fragile the supports are on the cut side. But at the same time, it's a Red 2 classic hero. He's going to feel very comfortable on it. If there is any hero for him to sort of get away with, it's got to be the Storm Spirit. If he can't win with this, it's going to feel almost impossible to win with anything else. So I do like it a little bit, but again, playing into Lion, playing into Faceless Void, it's going to feel a little bit risky. And if you do get caught out, you have to get so much done early on. Otherwise, the risk of just losing your lane and losing your game, it's the pressure is definitely there on the cut side. And now, especially with Analog playing a counter to his lane, it's gonna feel a little bit rough, but I definitely have stock in the Red 2 Storm Spirit.
Yeah, it comes with some risks. That's always basically going to be the case. Very rarely do you just straight up get a free Storm game, but if Red 2 can avoid some of this serious lockdown, then yeah, it'll be interesting to see what he can do, especially now, well, Lion, Magnus, Lina, not heroes who are going to be particularly tanky, so maybe the Storm can make some moves here, try to get his team into a solid position, as we should be loading in just another moment or two. Everyone has picked up their heroes, and we are pretty much good to go. So, final match of the day, just moments away from getting started. Can Hokori finish off this 2-0 sweep, get themselves sort of back into the win column there, or will the cut be able to salvage another 1-1 split? We saw them do this on the back end of yesterday's schedule, lost their first series before pulling off the 1-1 to close it out, so yeah, it's certainly going to be an accomplishment for the cut, not to really sort of beat up on them, sort of bully them a little bit more, but they are very much the underdog in this situation, but we'll see what they can do. Looks like they put themselves into a relatively solid position, and they would certainly like to close this one out. Close this one out with a point on the board here at the end of day 2, as we are getting started. Cut on the dire half of the map, Hokori on the Radiant, and take it away.
Well, and of course we have a pause for our last game of the day. But if there was ever a game for SMD to sort of put this under his wing, try to get as much done as possible, his Wraith King is definitely one of the fallbacks, one of the standbys where I do sort of subscribe to the idea that if there's any hero that SMD can 1v9 with, it is going to be his Wraith King. And in a match, no less, where it feels like they do have to blow a lot of spells on him. If anything, I feel like he wants to take those spells. The worst case scenario for the cut is if this Chrono is landing on the Storm Spirit, if the Doom is landing on Tingle King, they really need to be careful about how they're showing, where they're showing. If the cut play really good measured Dota, then I really do think that this is going to be a better turnabouts than that previous game, as they just have a little bit more robust heroes. Whereas on Hokori's side, I think they need to hit those targets. If they ever miss, there's definitely a lot of room for punishment, especially once that Storm gets Orchid. We'll have a little bit of a leg up on Analog's Lina. And then I feel like there definitely is chance for El Micho and Analog to feed this game. And that's the vulnerability that I think the cut really need to hit hard.
Right, we always do sort of talk about that, looking at a lineup like the one Hokori have put together. You take a look at them, they've got a lot of sort of big pieces, and if they put them all together, as you were sort of alluding to, it is going to be hard for the cut to sort of burn through it, but there's so many moving parts, there's so many different aspects of that team fight for Hokori that really do have to be, maybe not perfectly placed, but at least good enough almost every single time. As you said, if they miss, if one of those spells goes awry, it may not be enough to immediately sort of tank their chances, but it will create an opening that the cut can then take advantage of. So the execution here is going to be absolutely paramount for Hokori. They really can't afford to make too many mistakes, otherwise they could find themselves falling behind pretty swiftly. Meanwhile, some good news. We do have the Nyx Assassin back into the server, so Giant has returned. We are good to go. So thank you for waiting there as we have that initial pause coming in, but we should now be getting this last match of the day underway.
And back to the point where Analog, he just needs to have a decent time. If he can slow down Red 2's Orchid as much as possible, again, all of the pressure really feels like it's on a singular player, where Giant, no matter what he does, it's not going to feel as relevant as whatever Red 2 is going to be able to make happen in that 12 to 14 minute mark. And we'll have to see, because if Hokori can sort of dodge around the initial jump from Red 2, we see with Storm Spirit, if you run out of that mana a little bit too early, you have to commit a little too hard to get some of these kills, the hero just feels absolutely terrible. Once you're in, you're in. You can't really get out at that point. And again, we have some stand-up performances that really need to come forward for the cut to make the plays to win. Specifically, hopefully seeing some nice vacuum into impales. That would be a vacuum impale into Ice Blast. That would be the picture-perfect team fight for the cut.
So we were talking a little bit earlier on for Hokori about the sort of need for that teamfight execution to be on point, but as you were just pointing out for the cut, they've got some combos to put together as well. That is something that Hokori are going to have to respect. It's not a situation where your team fight necessarily just straight up overrides theirs. So going to have to be a little bit careful. Obviously, you want to, oh god, you want to go in for these plays early on over the course of the match, but can't put yourself in a position where you then leave yourself open to a counterattack, as Gardic just straight up charged in there. Using the skewer at level 1, it didn't actually get him the rune though, so it's some damage, and it's already going to be back off cooldown, but it's a play that doesn't quite work out the way he was hoping to, as the bounties will be split evenly between the two squads, and I'm going to take a look initially down in the bottom lane here. Lumiere on this Faceless Void obviously going to play a monumental role in the overall game plan for the side of Hokori, but he's going up against Tingle King on this Darkseer. He's going to spam out those Ion Shells, and Lumiere is maybe not going to be in danger of immediately being taken down, but this is going to be just annoying to deal with over time.
Yeah, and once Tingle King gets to a point, yeah, they're just going to start creep cutting. They're going to put two shells on each other. They could pull it into another creep wave. Probably going to block this small camp, not giving Gardic any opportunity to do really much of anything. Going to let that large camp spawn up as well. And Tingle King's got to be pretty happy with the way things are going right now, even if Gardic is being a little bit annoying.
Yeah, just sort of getting in there, looking to be as disruptive as possible, as that Centaur does briefly stun Tingle King up, but he's just going to go to work here with the Ion Shell. So the good news in this lane is that Lumiere is now not having to deal with that direct pressure, but really whatever the Faceless Void is going to get in this lane now, Tingle King could potentially match up with, and Gardic may want to be a little bit careful. He's going to go for the skewer. He pulls Tingle with him, though, so he was still taking the Ion Shell damage, but at that point you're effectively diving a tower to go any further, so we will see them back off, but this is almost a casual sort of level of aggression from the cut. Tingle King just sort of occasionally throwing out the Ion Shell. You get Giant in there for a little bit of backup, and are they going to be able to find kills right now? Maybe not, but it doesn't take a lot of effort for them to try and disrupt the Gardic and Lumiere as much as they possibly can, as Giant's actually pulling another creep wave.
Yeah, and Gardic, again, he's just going to try and be annoying. It'd be lovely if he had the shockwave, maybe able to steal this large camp, but up to this point, there's not much that they can do. Lumiere is just going to continue, not really going to miss any last hits underneath the tower. There's really not very much to miss. It's pretty simple, and this is just what Darkseer wants. We'll see whenever Giant is able to make a rotation towards the top lane, as we saw in that previous Nyx Assassin game with the Darkseer, that you're always able to make that very easy rotation. The relative strength that the Ion Shell gives you could definitely catch off Elmisha or Vitaly in the top lane, but we'll have to see for that to happen.
Meanwhile, up top, Vitaly taking a little bit of damage here. Scourge just sort of hits him up once or twice. Pingu comes in with the Cold Feet. That does proc the stun, but at that point, Vitaly is going to be able to fall back. The salve is dropped right on top of him, so he is going to be okay, but in this lane, so far, Vitaly's been doing pretty damn well. 17 last hits, that actually leads all players. Obviously, he can cheat a little bit there with the Devour, but he's doing pretty well for himself. Meanwhile, Scourge, 11-0, so there is a bit of a discrepancy forming in this top lane already, and I don't really think it's one that the Cut are going to be able to immediately address, at least in terms of putting pressure onto the Doom.
And really, with this Wraith King, we see level 4 where he has that second level in Vampiric Spirit and 1 level in Mortal Strike, that hero can really start to come into its own. But until that point, Elmisha is just going to keep the wave back as much as he can, mana drain these targets, just keep on being annoying. And Vitaly already having up that chainmail, and with Doom getting a lot more armor in just normal Dota, just always getting buffed in that regard. Even though Pingu does have that Blightstone, he feels pretty confident to stand in these waves.
Yeah, you're not really going to be able to break through him immediately. Meanwhile, the reason for the pause, another DC from Giant, as the Nyx Assassin does end up dropping out again. So this one's going to be a little bit more important. Giant's not in the greatest of positions right now. He's basically on top of Gardic. The Magnus does not have the skewer any longer, though, so he's not going to be able to go for the force back. But if he goes in for the Shockwave now, and I guess the Faceless Void could potentially make his way over as well, they could still try to cut him off. So Giant's going to have to sort of make a bit of an escape here, but obviously we have to wait for him to be back into the server before we get things back online. But And now that I'm actually looking at it, I don't really think he's in that much danger after all. There's no time walk up on the Faceless Void, so the possibility that he sort of closes that gap in time seems kind of slim right now.
Yeah, and it's just conjecture. We got nothing to talk about, so might as well talk about this. And if anything, Giant will just throw out the impale. He's got pretty good mana. Walk away. Could just simply use the spiked carapace on the next right click coming in from Gardic. That would also suffice. But he's sort of getting the hands. Gardic's been pretty successful in his play, and Lumiere as well, just getting all of the waves forced into him. Nobody's really losing in the game as of yet. Everybody is sort of getting their farm. Nobody's getting too shut down. But with the lanes that were sort of set up from the start, there really is nobody to get shut down in this game. The really roughest lane that could be happening right now is really top with El Misho, maybe getting punished by SMD and Pingu, but that might come at later levels. Everybody's going to have a pretty calm first couple minutes here.
Yeah, which obviously fantastic for them. Doesn't leave us with a whole lot of action to talk about, but the sort of roundabout of that one is if they build themselves up early now, that could lead to some more maybe dynamic fights later on down the line once we start getting those levels up and running. For now, still waiting on that Nyx Assassin. Not 100% sure about the rules on pause time, probably somewhere around 10 to 15 minutes. Hopefully we never get close to that threshold, but the Nyx is still gone for now, so hopefully Giant is getting back in. We haven't heard anything from the side of the cut just yet. No sort of ETA in terms of his return, but they've still got plenty of time at this point. I'm just kind of throwing that one out there as, hey, look at that. All you got to do is threaten with the pause rules, and that brings Giant right back on in.
Yep, and immediate G, and we can get things underway. The only thing really happening in this current minute is just RedTube getting the bounty rune, and he has been getting last hits here and there. I think a lot of those are from that small camp, as Analog is pulling ahead just very, very slightly in the levels, but this is a slightly rough lane for Storm Spirit. It's definitely a lane that doesn't feel the best, especially once the water runes come into play.
Yeah, just gonna have to rely more and more on sort of supplementing his farm with some of these side camps, but for now it's not going too poorly for him. I mean,
Top?
He is relatively even as top lane. Yet Vitaly and El Misho jump their way in. Pingu gets himself caught out. El Misho actually looking for a little bit more, connecting with that Earth Spike onto Scourge. Do they have the damage? No. They get close, but not quite able to make it happen, but First Blood's still going to go their way, as they do take down that Ancient Apparition. Oh no. Giant.
Yeah. It's unfortunate, and yeah, very adept emote coming out from Lumiere, but I think Giant just having a lot of trouble. He's just been getting run around by this Magnus, so it hasn't been, the worst time, but it definitely is a little bit awkward, especially after Pingu dying top.
Yeah, that gives the cut, unfortunately, a little bit of time to sort of stew in this one. Haven't given up that first kill, but I don't know, last time it didn't take Giant too long to get himself back in, so hopefully another reconnect could actually fix the problem and he will be good to go. But that was honestly a relatively nice play up in that top lane. That's really the only kill I think they're going to be able to necessarily get. They do come close to the Wraith King there, but 9 times out of 10 I think you're going to sort of fall short on that one. So it's an easier kill to secure onto the Ancient Apparition, and the first blood bonus is theirs all the same. So Hokori, nice aggressive move early on. Speaking of aggressive maneuvers though, El Misho, he's making his way towards the river, snags that water rune away from Red 2. Meanwhile, Analog was able to bottle up the other one. So that's going to feel kind of bad for the Storm. Has no chance to refill that bottle until, I guess, Bounty Runes spawning up, or maybe the next water runes for that matter.
And this is sort of the issue with Storm Spirit, and we saw it a lot whenever Void Spirit was more in the meta, but you need to make rotations for these runes, and actually bottom. Oh, Tingle.
Yeah, Tingle trying to push in. Comes close to getting the kill. Oh, getting the kill, but that tower shot still tracking onto him. It's too much damage. Tingle gets taken down. Did he have anything? He had a bottle charge. He might have been able to get that off in time, but
yeah, he didn't even go for it. I think just pretty unlucky.
Maybe just kind of forgetting that the tower was going to do that much damage. Either way, though, Hokori with a second kill on the board, and well, turning their opponent's aggression against them, and now this is where things are going to get a little bit more concerning. Lumiere does now have that Empower up. The Magnus hits level 3.
Top 2.
And up top, yeah, Vitaly pushing on to Pingu again. He is getting a little bit deep here, though. As Scourge is going to turn around. Uh-oh, turn around with the Wraithfire Blast, but a clutch Hex out from El Misho is going to prevent Scourge from getting any further damage. and that is going to net them a kill.
And this was the hero at the beginning of the patch that people were really sort of looking underneath the magnifying glass and forgetting after that initial change. But as soon as you get phase boots on this Doom, you just immediately run down whoever, and especially a bootsless Pingu. It's just a super easy target.
Okay, there we go. Tingle hit up by
Yeah,
that
Bob.
dilation initially. The shockwave pulls him back as well, but he was holding the surge, waits for those slows to be deployed, and then just surges himself away. So smart move from Tingle to keep himself safe, especially considering the fact that he doesn't have his support in this lane any longer. Giant has rotated his way mid, looking to pick up a little bit of experience while Red 2 farms up in the jungle.
And I think this is the right play. We saw in the game where there was another Darkseer where the 4 wasn't really able to make those successful rotations, and Analog stole the rune.
Can he get out with it? That is going to be the question. Pulled back in by the Vortex. The Impale comes through as well. Misho, though, making his way over, and his presence is enough to sort of force these opposing heroes back. Giant, though, is not going to make it out. Analog even throwing the Laguna onto the Storm just to make sure Red 2 wasn't going to push any further forward. He's missing most of his HP, but now, okay, zipping his way forward. Not going to be enough, though, and oh my god, that is one hell of a stun coming out from El Misho.
No.
The maximum possible range, and Red 2's dead.
What a play.
Oh, man, El Misho, that is and he's going to get the Courier, too, sniping out Giant's Courier at the back end to add insult to injury. This is already concerning. 5 straight on the board for Hokori, as we do see a pause coming out. This time it's on the Hokori side, though, so there we go. El Misho is actually going to disconnect himself. So we have a little bit more in the way of connection issues, but at least it's not the Nyx Assassin this time.
And it really does feel problematic that the entire reason that fight instigated was just because of the Arcane Rune and not having really any of the wit with bouts to get that rune on the Storm Spirit, or even Red 2 being forced to walk away from that small camp. He knew he had the jungle. He knew that Analog was already level 6. He couldn't show his face in lane. That's a big reason why Giant decided to cop a few levels. But at the same time, feeding a double kill, I don't think... Yeah, El Misho did get the kill on Giant, so it's not a double kill for Analog. But at the same time, getting this Storm Spirit off of the map, it really just feels awful. And every single death, every single moment that he's not farming, he's not using his mana. And it's something that we see with Storm Spirit where maybe you over-rotate. And over-rotating with that hero is definitely a big problem. But every minute that this Orchid is going to get delayed is going to be more time that Hokori get to farm and get levels really for free. Because that really active Catalyst hero is the Storm Spirit. Everyone else on the map should really struggle to make plays in this game.
Yeah, and as of right now, he's got the masks. That's pretty much it. So it is a long way to go for that Orchid. We're all of 6 or 7 minutes in, so we weren't exactly expecting him to be, close to that purchase right now. But these deaths are certainly going to set him back, and with Analog sort of receiving most of the benefit of it on the other side, it's not just a matter of delaying the Orchid. He will get it eventually, but by the time he does, how much further ahead will Analog really be? As El Misho, he needs mana, so he's going to suck it away, from Giant. So it's not quite enough for him to actually make any sort of maneuver there, but he has enough now for one of these 2 forms of lockdown. I don't think that's enough for them to really chase in, especially considering Analog is kind of out of gas right now. Very low on both HP and mana, so he's going to fall back. That's a lot of bounties and a lot of bottle charges. So I said he was low. Not really the case anymore. He's going to be able to pretty much completely refill the HP and the mana counts.
And that's where the cut really needs to be careful, because while Red 2 should be using his mana to really farm with the jungle as fast as he can, Pingu, I think, hasn't been able to really stack it all for his Storm Spirit, so we're not going to see that sort of accelerated style. Yeah, bottom.
Gardic dropped low, tried to skewer out. The problem is he actually brought Giant with him. Spike Carapace into the Ion Shell is enough to find the kill, and that is going to be the cut on the board. They finally got that first kill about 7.5 minutes in, but still leaves them down 2k, but at least they start the process of getting something for themselves. First kill on the board for them. Maybe not the most valuable, but you got to work with whatever you can get right now.
And I think it's just because Lumiere has been eating a lot of Gartic's regen. He's been taking pretty much all of the salves and tangos from that Magnus, so it doesn't surprise me at all for him to maybe get caught out.
Red
yeah,
2
Analog.
Gonna zip his way in. Analog's in some trouble. The Cold Feet actually gonna stun him up as well. He drops the LSA onto himself. Throws out the Laguna Blade now as well into the Chrono, catching onto 2. Giant, can he make any sort of defensive play here? Yes, he can. Impale will connect. Red 2 not dead just yet, but no mana. He can't get himself away. He's gonna get taken down by Lumiere with one final right click. Meanwhile, El Misho chasing further to the north, gets that final Earth Spike down, and Pingu will fall. 2 kills for Hokori. Things looked a little bit rough initially for that Lina, but Analog buys some time and the reinforcements arrive to really turn the fight.
Yeah, and now bottom, Tingle King gonna get run at as well.
Can Gardic really do this himself? No, he can't. He's gonna die. Elmisho, though, coming in with a finger. Oh, boy. So Gardic has to be sacrificed, but they will get the kill, and now they want a little bit more. Giant doesn't have the spike. Carapace up for 10 more seconds. He really has nothing left to fight with as Elmisho hits him up with the Hex, and now they just need really one or two more hits. One or two more. There we go. One or two more hits to get the kill, as Analog will get it. But while his teammate was creating that distraction, Scourge, he takes the tower, so making the most of a bad situation there as he does claim that tier 1 bot.
But still, it's just the Lina continuing to accelerate. This is going to be an incredibly fast Yules coming from Analog, and that will shore up a lot of the lockdown issues that their team does sort of have aside from El Misho. And at the same time, El Misho has a blisteringly fast Blink Dagger coming up. He's already sitting at about 1,500 golden. At the same time, it feels like Red 2, he keeps on having to make these rotations, and you saw sort of back then, he had 3 points in Remnant and only 1 point in Overload, so that Lina kill wasn't even close. It wasn't even on the table at that point. And a 3k gold emerging, you got to take it with a grain of salt because this Doom is in the game, but only level 1 Devour. It just feels like they're getting so much from these lanes.
Okay, top lane, well, it's an interesting attempt. Tingle comes in, drops the wall, pulls him back into it with the vacuum, but the time lock was there. So Lumiere simply walks away, and that is your wall deployed for very little. They are going to be able to form up an illusion here, which does have the Ion Shell on it, so maybe the Darkseer can find some extra last hits with that, but wall for last hits is not exactly the usual strategy. So bit of a missed opportunity there for the cut, and a play I'm not really sure they should have tried for, but they went for it. It doesn't work. It is going to be a bit of a setback for them.
And similar to the last time we saw Hokori pull this out is Lumiere just farming in his triangle. Gartic taking a lot of the harassment from these creeps, not able to farm that triple ancient stack just yet, but getting sort of the framework ready to farm up there. And it really is hard for Lumiere to die if I think they need wall if they would want to kill him with the Nyx Assassin and the Darkseer, but they might try for it anyway.
Yeah, Lumiere, though, sort of guessing that something was coming his way as he is able to back off. Now Gardic, gonna get himself stunned up. Vacuum pulls him back in. He could go down here, and he will, but Lumiere responds with that Chrono, connecting onto 2. His teammates aren't exactly in a position to immediately follow it up, but they don't really need to. They've got these kills well in hand. Giant taken down, Tingle King dead as well. That Ice Blast, that's... Oh, okay, hold up. Wow. I was gonna say too late, but Lumiere walks back into it, and he's dead. Pingu given a gift with that Ice Blast connection, but he'll take it.
It was honestly really tight, and he just had no idea. They maybe would have been able to scout it out with this ward back here, but I think Pingu was just slightly out of vision, and well, Lumiere loses his life. But again, he finishes Diffusal Blade. It's after a bunch of kills, and now you're smoking up with Analogs. Or after seeing him, yeah, they saw Red 2 on the ward.
Storm Spirit able to get himself away, at least for now. Analog, though, still chasing. Eul Scepter comes in. Will Vitaly be able to connect with the Doom? No. He's actually going to get, okay, stunned up by the Carapace first into the Impale, but it's not going to matter. Finger of Death comes through from El Misho, and Red 2 will still fall. Now, all of a sudden, these two heroes down bot, Pingu and Scourge, they're not in a great position. Gardic going to try to push his way forward. Doesn't want to commit the RP just yet. He's going to, okay, he's going to go for it there, though, as Pingu will be locked down. Lumiere comes in for the damage, and now they're going to turn their attention onto the Break King as well. There is no mana actually here for the reincarnation. He's just straight up dead.
Needs to get the stick off.
Can he actually pop it? Nope. May have been enough to save him, but doesn't actually get it off in time. Lumiere picks up the double and the cut. Really just sort of mismanaging multiple fights there. The Storm Spirit caught out mid, 2 heroes dead down bot, and Hokori, they're starting to pull away bit by bit. 14-4, a 4k net worth lead for them just 13 minutes in. This one is looking like it's going to be kind of hard for them to blow it, really, especially with this Faceless Void build. I don't know about you, but I really like the way Lumiere is going here. That early diffusal into that Sange and Yasha, he's not looking for this one to go late. He's not going for any sort of farming play. It's just all about damage and durability with these sort of teamfight-oriented items.
And that's something that we see more and more commonly with Faceless Void. Getting the Sange and Yasha first would have been maybe better in a much harder game, but even now we see Red 2 sort of crawling towards this Orchid. He's trying to get his last Oblivion Staff delivered to him, but once he has that Orchid, you have a BKB on Vitaly, you already have a Yule Scepter on the Lina, and if you're going to have a Sange up on Lumiere as well, it feels like the items to combat that Orchid timing are already there, and the smoke, once they get that Orchid, is going to be absolutely crucial for the cut to stay in this game. If they aren't able to find something, then it's not going to slow them down enough, and already Scourge, he's gone for this Armlet, going to get the Radiance next. He does have the tools to sort of tank up and fight a little bit, but we've already seen, once he gets his mana burned, if they're able to chain stun him up, there's nothing he can do. He's just going to die, and I think we're going to see a big smoke play coming out from Hokori now. BKB's delivered on Vitaly.
And they're gonna go for it. Where is that smoke? Gardic doesn't have it. Is it in the hands of the Lion? There it is. Yep. So, here they go. Grouping up. Smoke play. Relatively standard stuff, but if they can punch through right now, if they can take this fight just as that Orchid is sort of coming out, that is going to be absolutely brutal. But, Giant, nice play there, breaking up the smoke, but Almisho able to blink forward. He gets the Hex down onto Pingu. They're going to try and take that Ancient Apparition out as quickly as possible, and they will be able to do so, but the Ice Blast does still fly. It is going to connect, but I'm not sure if it's going to be enough to matter, although Analog is starting to drop a little bit low. Can they bring him down, though? Not just yet. Buying time with the LSA, turning around, RP now coming in, Lumiere pushing forward as well. They're going to try to lock down Giant. He just wants to go all in for that kill into the Lina, but he's not going to get it. Analog will live, and now the fight, it's still going. Scourge is going to get caught out here by the Chronosphere. Lumiere, though, wants to go in for the Darkseer first. Almisho able to finish that kill off with the Finger of Death, and now the Wraith King is all by himself, and he will not survive. He does, man. No, he didn't. He got off the wand, but it was a little bit too early. The mana burn then comes in, and it knocks him out of that reincarnation range.
And just the packing order, even though it was sort of a scuffed initiation from Almisho, he originally went on to Pingu. Oh, Almisho might be dead. Okay, Almisho is dead, but they're trying to find the recovery kills right now.
Well, what is Red 2 doing here? This is a little bit risky. He's going to push his way in. Can they actually get the Doom here? They're certainly trying for it, but okay, no, never mind. The Wand Charge does not come out, but Lumiere's in. He's going to try to get the Bashes down. Gardic, though, going in with the Shockwave, and that is enough damage. Red 2 just goes to the wrong spot. A little bit of extra damage will bring him down, and now the Cut have to run for their lives here, as Giant is going to try to get himself away. Scourge, though, rejoining the engagement, turning around for the Wraithfire Blast into the Cold Feet, so that is going to proc, but they're not going to be able to do too much return damage. Lumiere is already falling back, so Scourge has no choice but to go after Gardic instead, but he is going to be able to secure that kill with the Mortal Strike crit.
And this is what I was worried about with Hokori's lineup, is they definitely aren't invulnerable. They can definitely stick around, overstay their welcome, and sort of give away their advantage. But now they could just farm up, wait for this next Chronosphere. They really don't need to push the agenda too much, as that would definitely be the only way they throw this game. Maybe waiting for another smoke out. They don't have Finger of Death, so they have to play around Analog, use that Laguna Blade in. At the same time, we still haven't seen a great debut, and I think they're trying to smoke up on the Cut again. Just need to push in these waves a little bit further. But again, who are you trying to kill with this Orchid? Are you trying to kill the Doom with the BKB? Impossible. Are you trying to kill Almisho or Gartic? That'd be nice, but really the return play is sort of always there from Hokori. So they're just syncing up with the Wraith King. I don't know if this smoke is really going to find anything.
Yeah, it just feels like they don't have a sort of obvious play to make. They're going to try for it anyway, though, so they are going to wrap their way towards the middle lane. Can they get him? No Chrono available. Time walks back up, but if they have the lockdown, they can get it. Silence comes in. Ice Blast. Okay. Ice Blast is not going to connect. Nice play in, though, from Analog with the Yules, but that is going to cost him his own life, or maybe not. He's actually still alive. Nope, never mind. He will be going down, but Gardic is able to get in there with the RP, connecting onto 2. And this may be the opportunity for Hokori to start turning things around, but they are going to be losing Almisho as well. But Vitaly pushing forward. Drops the Doom down onto that Storm. Can he somehow get out of this, or can a teammate deny him, perhaps? Is Giant? He didn't get it. Mistiming the deny. Vitaly picks up the double kill, and now the rest of the Cut are going to have to try and fall back, but Tingle King, he's making his way into the fight. He'll throw the Surge out onto Scourge, but that's really just to get him away as opposed to trying to turn back around. As Tingle will look for the TP. Vitaly doesn't have that Infernal Blade, so he can't cancel it out. Lumiere, though, up to the north, was able to run down Pingu, so they do get that Ancient Apparition kill. That is going to sort of turn the kill count in their favor at 3-2, but take a look at the gold gate. Actually, that one comes out almost dead even, so yeah. I'd still say if you're the Cut, you're relatively okay with how that one plays out, at least for this point in the game, considering how far behind they are.
Well, and Scourge, the big winner, able to walk away. Lumiere was kind, really singling out Pingu there, not wanting to have that AA get away with anything. But Tingle King and Scourge able to walk away is the only plus side for the cut there, as well as sort of taking out Analog at the beginning of that fight. It really felt like a missed go. They might have been able to get Lumiere at the beginning if he was able to immediately get that electric vortex. But even Red 2 getting a little bit greedy. But again, all of these plays have been made really with blind jumps. The cut have sort of been really zoned out of their own vision. They keep on having to take these unideal fights, but now I think they're out of smokes unless Pingu has one. Okay, Pingu has one, but that's going to be their last for a while, and yeah,
Not going to get the chance to use it. Oh my god. Elmisho coming in there, finding that kill with extreme prejudice. The Finger of Death coming in for the kill, and Tingle King and Giant, yeah, this is not a great situation for them. They're going to get caught out. Those sentries will spot the Nyx Assassin, but Vitaly hasn't found the kill just yet. Now here comes Red 2 in with the silence. They're going to be able to take him down. Lumiere, though, wants the chrono, and I suppose he does get it, but he's only going to hit onto Giant. Not able to lock down that Storm Spirit, but they do have Tingle King locked down now with the Yules into the LSA, into the Laguna, and that is going to be a pretty solid sort of response. Analog just coming in a little, well, later on. I'm not going to say entirely late, as he obviously does pick up the kill, but acting as the trailer on that play, will be able to pick up Tingle King, and now they push into the Roche pit.
Yeah, and there's not much that they can do about it. I think they will ping it out, and once Pingu sends the Ice Blast, they do need to be a little bit careful, especially whoever's tanking the Roshan. But now, honestly, with the vision they get from this Ancient Apparition, they do need to be cautious on the side of Hokori, but the issue being if the cut gets kited a little bit too close to the pit, Hokori can definitely just get on top of you, take you out. They really haven't expended too much. Not having the Chrono, that's the biggest spell that they don't have, but going to have Laguna Blade in a few moments here. And again, it still feels very scary for them to sort of stick their necks out if you're on the cut side.
And an Arcane Rune picked up by Analog as well, so if he can get off this Laguna really within the next, 30 seconds, minute or so, then you will have that reduced cooldown. We'll see what they can do with it. They don't have the Chrono, as you were just pointing out, but could still force that fight, although at this point it looks like the cut may be the squad to force the engagement. As they're going to smoke up, they're trying to make their way over to the pit. Elmisho is sort of standing guard right now, but that's not the hero they want. They may not have a choice, though. I think that smoke just popped. Red 2 might have gotten close enough.
He's just standing between the Vortex, the Roshan Vision, and the pit. He's honestly in the perfect spot, but Analog...
Ooh. Analog going to get caught. The silence comes down. The Ice Blast in for good measure as Red 2 finds the kill, and Analog... I mean, he had the Yule Scepter, but if he'd have sort of preempted that, then he still would have been stunned up by the Impale on the other end of it. So, solid initiation there from that Nyx Assassin leads into a solid kill for the cut, and now we have some questions about the situation around the Roche pit. It looked earlier on like Hokori almost had a free pass to take this, but some solid plays from Ancient Apparitions sort of immediately pushed their opponents out of the pit, and now... That's not great. Elmisho going to get himself caught out. Red 2 jumps in. Pingu gets the kill, and now Vitaly actually stunned up as well, but yeah, the reinforcements are coming. Gardic is going to arrive. They've got the Faceless Void making his way over as well, 20 seconds away from that Chrono. So not quite the secondary engagement that the cut want, but that was well done. They get themselves a pair of kills, taking down both Analog and Elmisho, and not really a whole lot lost in the process.
And now, I think Hokiri, they really need to sort of set themselves back, get their BKBs, need to reassess where they're going in this game. Once Lumiere has his Chrono, which he does right now, also sitting about 800 gold away from that BKB, they'll still be able to make aggressive plays on the map, but the cut have definitely shown they can find their targets. They can still play on the more fragile members of the Hokori side, but other than that, I don't really see a way that they kill this Faceless Void. They really need to get sort of a miracle jump if they do ever want to kill him, and that's assuming that Vitaly isn't in the neck of the woods. Whereas Vitaly, we haven't seen him really been able to get those key dooms off. Red 2 has been incredibly patient. He's been zipping and breaking line of sight a lot with his Ball Lightning, just showing, again, the experience of him in that hero. But now that Scourge has this Radiance, there has to be a moment coming up soon here where the cut need to feel ready to take the fight, but it's a smoke up from Hokori.
Yeah, Hokori smoking their way into the north side jungle, looking for Well, I would assume some sort of fight, but Gardic actually going to get pulled up instead, but Vitaly blinks his way forward. BKB active, drops the Doom onto the Darkseer, so they're going to try and keep him out of the fight. The problem is, they don't really have the means to deal with Red 2 right now, as he's going to jump his way forward. The Chrono, though, will be deployed. Does Lumiere have the damage to do this by himself? He's actually cut Analog out of the fight, but it looks like he is still going to be able to contribute coming in with the LSA. Vitaly now blinking forward as well. They still can't lock the kill down, as Red 2 is able to get away, so instead, they'll turn their attention onto Scourge. They do burn through him once. Can they get him again? LSA will connect. Laguna Blade will be deployed, and I do believe they've got the damage for that one. Scourge will be taken down, but good news was that Red 2 was able to get away. The Ancient Apparition, though, may not be quite as fortunate. Pingu, he's hiding, but yeah, he's going to get found pretty quickly. Lumiere tracks him down, and Faceless Void will get the kill. So you take down the 2 supports if you're the cut, as they get both the Mag and the Lion. The problem is, they weren't quite able to deal with the cores in the way that they wanted. That was a nice initial attempt from the Darkseer. Once he's doomed up, he just tries to sort of pull the Doom as far away from the fight as possible, but it doesn't really work. He still dies, and Vitaly had more than enough time to blink himself back into the engagement.
And all of that, very unfortunate that Analog ended up being in that Chronosphere, but again, you dive in to get that Darkseer out of the game, you stick on him long enough for him to die.
Ooh.
Because of this.
Okay.
This is huge.
Gardic. Oh no, he faked it out. Okay. We'll be able to get the RP off, but it's only onto that Nyx Assassin. They don't lock down Red 2, but they are still trying to take the fight. Vitaly, though, has to back himself away. Red 2 doesn't want to let him go. He has the haste rune, but he's hexed up, hit by the Finger of Death as well, and he just has to try and back off of this fight. He cannot pursue that kill any further. As Hokori are able to fall back, they do suffer a casualty, though, and now, ooh, Ice Blast very nearly hits onto the Doom. It does connect onto Lumiere, but he's got a little too much HP, so it looks like Lumiere will be just fine, but if you're the cut, you took down the Lina, you take down Roshan, and they somehow managed to sort of swing their way into the pit, and they will get the Aegis into the hands of the Storm Spirit.
And you had to use 2 BKBs there, both your longest charges. Analog wasn't able to even get his BKB off, and that's the vacuum impale play. That's exactly what they need to do to sort of get something going in their favor, as well as the damage coming in from that Ice Blast. That's exactly what their lineup needs to do, and they need to keep on doing that to stay really with their head above water. I think once Scourge is able to sort of make his way towards that Blink Dagger, we see the fights going even further in their favor, and stealing this Aegis is a massive swing, because now Red 2, I don't know if they're really going to get too aggressive on the side of the cut, but you have that second life, you have that much more mana to play with, and if they ever show on the map, there's definitely feeding that be happening for the Hokori side. They don't have a lot of those supplemental items. We'll see Vitaly sort of go back for a plate mail, go back for some of the items that you skipped to get this BKB as soon as you can, and that's when the cut will really start to struggle again. But if they do sort of barrel towards this late game, you have Storm Spirit, you have one of the best heroes in the game at that stage. It's definitely something you have to consider if Hokori want to sort of dodge around and give them a little bit more time because of this Aegis.
So, the cut... how to phrase this one up. I mean, they're not exactly mounting the comeback just yet, but it is potentially that first step, and actually they're feeling pretty damn confident here. A 4-man smoke coming out from them after taking that tier 2 tower, so they're still trailing by 5k, but you wouldn't really be able to really wouldn't be able to notice based on how aggressively they're playing. Unfortunately, that aggression is a little off the mark. Nice attempt from the Darkseer to go in there with a vacuum, but not quite able to connect. So the smoke play, I think it was a good idea. They just don't manage to make that full connection, but still prowling around the map, still working with 2 lives up on the Storm, so they can afford to try and see really what they can get as Scourge. Just gonna charge his way into the west side jungle. That, well, feels maybe a little bit risky, but no one on the side of Hokori really wants to deal with him, so they are going to back themselves away, and that gives the cut an opportunity now to push another lane down as Scourge makes his way top.
And really, El Misho, he's one of the few heroes that they can play incredibly aggressive on. He has to be so careful with his positioning. But the cut, they haven't been getting what they want. They've walked all the way up from that dire jungle, or from that radiant jungle, all the way to that new triangle. And they're going to smoke up again. And I think, is this the last one? It looks like it's going to be the last one for a while. So if they don't find anything here, it is going to be a little bit sad to make plays going forward. But again, this is time that Hokori are not feeling confident enough to make plays on the cut. So they've got to be feeling at least a little bit confident with how much their opponents are respecting them. And we will be seeing a few more items coming out, mainly the BKB for both the Storm Spirit and the Wraith King. Then he will be able to stick on these supports just a little bit more and maybe survive that Chronosphere a little bit better. But still, you're sort of at the mercy of the Faceless Void in this game. If he ever finds a Chronosphere on you, most of these heroes are still going to go down.
Yeah, so we were talking about the fact that Hokori showing a little bit of respect to the cut, but the respect has to go both ways. As you said, one misstep, especially on that Storm Spirit, and you are still getting shoved right back down into that same deficit. So if you're the cut, obviously you want to try and make these plays. We saw, I mean, what was that, 2 or 3 straight smokes out from them? So they want to be the team on the offensive here. They know they've been able to sort of turn things in their favor. They've still got the Aegis, so they could maybe sort of push their opponents further onto the back foot. The problem is the opportunities just have not necessarily presented themselves. So the cut are going to try to do whatever they can. They're pushing their way mid, going after the tier 2 tower. So if they force a response, that might be the fight they want. If they don't, they can take the tower with relatively little in the way of resistance. It's a win-win as, oh, nice play in from Tingle. Goes forward for the vacuum. They're going to lock down the Magnus as Gardic will be taken down. Misho, he TP'd in, immediately blinked himself away, trying for the Earth Spike, not going to connect, but I don't think this is going to turn into much more than that. Vitaly and Misho are very wisely hanging out on that high ground, but that does mean they're effectively going to have to sacrifice this tower.
And all of this, Lumiere not making any movements as soon as he sees that his Magnus is not alive. They don't want to show really anywhere, and at the same time the cut are making no movement to look for the Faceless Void. They still think he's in the base, but really with the cut moving out the way they are, they want to stay keeping control in the spot area, especially with the wards that Pingu has gotten down. They don't want to necessarily play in Hokori's vision at all. If they do, I think that's what's really going to spell disaster for them, especially with Hokori sort of branching out and taking back the triangle just at least a little bit. But again, a massive amount of respect for the cut. Hokori definitely aren't out of the woods just yet. And the longer this game goes, the more chances I think the cut have, especially with this Aegis respiring or expiring. Once he has BKB, Red 2 will be able to go a little bit more wild in these team fights.
You see both squads at this point getting pretty close to each other. Vitaly pushing his way forward. He doesn't want to drop that Doom onto Scourge, but at this point, he's going to have to actually engage with him to some degree, as he is going to hit him up with a stun, but only so much... really only so much he was willing to do there. He will lock down Scourge, but they don't want the full fight. They will instead back themselves away, but the timing is actually pretty good for the cut. They just got the BKB finished off by the Storm. It does have to be delivered out to him, but the Magic immunity online, this could now be the cut's opportunity to try and push forward and take an engagement. Obviously,
Red 2.
Without the Aegis, it's going to get a little bit more difficult for them, but BKB Storm could make a play. We'll see what opportunities present themselves as his teammates are still kind of inching their way forward, bit by bit, in that top lane, but it looks like at this point Scourge not interested in going any further forward. He will back himself off, as it looks like both sides are just going to go back to farming. So we get very close to an engagement on that one. A little bit of skirmishing, but nothing big enough to really set off that fight.
And looking around, I still don't think, yeah, the cut are still out of smokes. At the same time, I don't think Hokori really have anything in the works either, so we're going to see, yeah, he's got a smoke queued up and finally respawning for this Magnus. Maybe they'll be able to find some sort of play, but this is where the Nyx Assassin feels so strong. It feels like every single Vendetta is almost like a smoke, and really the only counter to it are those ward sentries. So if Giant is able to catch wind of this smoke, this is a high ground. This is where they have the vision set up. Yeah,
Lumiere, though,
Vitaly broke.
Well, he did shard his way into the high ground there with the Time Walk, and now gets the slow onto Giant. Can he actually lock him down, though? Not quite yet. Meanwhile, Red 2 zipping his way forward. They're going to try to bring down the line right away. They do get him, but he's traded out for Pingu. Pingu, however, buying back, looking to drop down anything left that he has, but Vitaly, he got in there for the Doom. Red 2 taken down. Scourge is now going to be sort of the leading man here in this fight, but I don't know how much he's going to be able to do. He can get Gardic, as the Magnus basically sort of skewered his way in there, looking to act as a distraction, and that distraction will be enough to get Lumiere away. BKB TP home, gets the Faceless Void out of trouble, and well, they get 2 there, but I think very importantly, they don't actually commit the Chronosphere. They do still have that if it comes down to another fight. Sure, the Doom and the Laguna have been thrown out there, but with that Chrono, they could still take a fight. Vitaly, yeah, he had to get himself back a little bit there as the Nyx Assassin was scouting out for him, but not going to be able to dive all the way into the base at the moment. So Cut will back themselves away. 2 for 2 trade there overall. The buyback on the Ancient Apparition is going to cost them a little bit of money on the top of it, but I don't think that goes too horribly for them. It is unfortunate to lose Red 2, but they are, excuse me, at this point just sort of, I guess to a certain extent, just drawing out the game. Just playing
Yeah,
for
and
later
I think
timings.
that's exactly what they want. They want to make these later timings happen. If you can get this Kai Sanj on the Storm Spirit, if you can get towards that Aghanim Scepter, then that zip suddenly turns into now the Lena and the Lion are both getting stunned up. And it's that sort of wrench in the cogs playstyle that the Cut have sort of, that's really been their playstyle. They've done it time and time again in the DPC. And now with Scourge making his way towards that Abyssal Blade, that could be some of that sort of supplementary lockdown that they have been lacking. And again, Hokori can't fully initiate at all onto the Cut. If they get in a little bit too deep, there's always the threat of that vacuum. Oh, Gartic's in a crazy spot.
He is going to be able to survive, but that's only because they're jumping in onto the Faceless Void. They've locked him down. Can they finish him off in time? Yes, they can. Lumiere dead. No buyback, actually. He is 1,500 gold short, so he's dead for quite some time. 80
and the
seconds.
Bot wave's already here.
Yeah, they're just going to go in. They've got a ready-made push. Gardic, though, does have his own buyback, but well, he doesn't really have a carry to follow after. He does have the RP, though, so maybe they could make a play, but I don't really know if it's going to work out for them, especially with Scourge, the only hero on the high ground right now. Even if they do get through him once, that reincarnation is going to bring him right back up and into the fight. So Hokori got to pick their moment very carefully, but while they wait, the Cut are just going to surge forward. They get the tier 3 tower. They're going after the racks now as well as Tingle King. Look at that.
Again.
In with the blink into the vacuum. They zip forward with the storm as well, and they've got it. Analog taken down. Buying back immediately. Ice Blast now flying through. Not going to be necessary as Gardic will fall. Scourge is able to pick up the double, and now he's back in. El Misho dangerously low on HP, but, well, Analog is back into the fight. He's going to be able to take down the Wraith King. The problem is, that's only the reincarnation. He'll turn his attention now onto Red 2, though. Red 2, that is not a lot of health or mana, and he's just straight up taken down. That's a bit of a misplay on his part, and now, all of a sudden, your Wraith King's kind of by himself. Giant is here to try and back him up, but Giant has almost no mana to work with himself, so it may just be the cue for the Cut to try and make their retreat. Vitaly, though, doesn't want to let him go. Pushing forward, able to get down the first bit of lockdown onto the Nyx. They get him with the Yules as well, into the LSA, but Carapace will buy a little bit of time, but it's not going to be enough. Analog just really getting himself going as a right-clicker here. That Crystallis is a pretty sizable amount of damage as he burned through almost everybody on the side of the Cut.
And they sort of bled out, and that's what happens when you don't have these sort of big items on the Storm Spirit. He simply ran out of mana. He had to dive in really deep, and all of this happens as soon as Roche respawns with the max timer, and that's incredibly unfortunate. But even then, Vitaly with the Shard, the Infernal Blade, I'm not sure if... I don't think any of them are multiples of 3, but did so much damage to everybody in the backline. And really, once Tingle King went down, he's been the one doing the vacuum into Hex plays that have been sort of causing the chaos. And while you did force out the buyback from the Lina, immediately getting an Aegis or a Cheese, something on that side, it feels incredibly bad right now. And it feels like the Cut are really back in that position they were maybe 10 minutes ago. But they need to keep making these plays. If Tingle King can keep finding those small ins with his Hex, that's really the lockdown that they've been lacking pretty much the entire game. And if they can keep that going, then I can definitely subscribe to the idea that the Cut can pull it back. But I feel like we're still barreling towards that late game situation. Anything sooner, I don't think the Cut can really put it out.
Yeah, I think you're really right on target with that. For the Cut, obviously, at a certain point, the momentum sort of petered out, but that doesn't mean that the overall strategy was the problem. They just need to keep on trying for those plays. They don't really have too many alternatives, so yeah, it doesn't work out in that instance, but that's not a reason to sort of switch things up right now. They need to continue trying to go in, trying to take advantage of whatever they've got on the Storm, and maybe they can work their way back into another position like the one we see here on the net worth chart. They had cut quite a bit of that gold deficit away, about 3K's worth chopped off there before obviously things kind of turn against them on the back end of that one, but doesn't mean that they can't do it again. They will have to be a little bit careful now with the Aegis and Cheese in their opponent's hands, but the capability is still there. But at this point, the way that these fights are going to go from now on, they need to be so much more careful. Analog earlier on had the crit stick. We saw how much damage he did with that. Now that's a full-on Daedalus, so he hits very, very hard. And if you're the Cut, you need to be prepared for that. You need to either focus him down as quickly as you can or try to just sort of keep him as far away from the fight as possible so that that damage doesn't become a factor.
And that's what the Cut are doing right now. They're making their way towards this bottom lane. They can only really fight where they have that vision. At the same time, Hokori playing around their vision. If anybody sticks their neck out a little bit too far of the Cut, they're gonna be ready to pounce on the Hokori side. It's very risky.
Oh, the Sentry. spotting out Giant. The nice Hex comes through, though, from Tingle. Not going to be enough. Giant will still fall, though, but he's going to buy back right away, trying to TP onto that outpost, as they do actually control it here in that south side jungle. So Giant is right back into the fight. They're going to get stunned down onto Vitaly. They hit him up. BKB was actually already used, so Vitaly's not able to protect himself. He will be taken down, but now here comes Lumiere into the fight. Maybe not. He's going to try to jump out, but the BKB wears off. He's going to get hexed up instead. Scourge going in for the damage. The vacuum will be there to pull him back in. Can the Faceless get himself out? Yes, he can. Time Walk keeping him safe for the time being. El Misho trying to act as that sort of secondary support, as he will be able to create a little bit more space for his teammate to get himself away. But now Analog has actually joined the fight. Red 2 take it down. Analog healing up with the cheese, and Scourge is going to get hit up by the RP. LSA comes in as well. Tingle King, though, going in for the normal punch, hitting up Analog. And while they do that, they do also burn the Aegis away from that Faceless Void. But now Gardic into the fight with the Skewer. They're going to try to lock down Scourge for as long as they can, but at this point the Reincarnation is available for him. So even if they bring him down once, he's going to come right back up in, and oh my god, at this point, Analog, he's just not able to survive. He'll be taken down. Tingle King getting the damage in there before getting hit up by the Doom, so he will be falling, but at this point, feels like he's kind of done his job. It's down to Scourge now to try and hold the line, but Vitaly refreshes the Doom, throws it out onto that Wraith King, and at this point, he's not going to make it out of here. The Wraith King just doesn't have anything to fight with outside of just the pure physical damage, and that will not be enough.
Well, and while you do use everything, you use absolutely everything in the kitchen sink, pretty much all of your buybacks, the only person not being forced to use their buyback is that Faceless Void. You had to use double Doom, you had to use your Refresher, you had to use really everything in the kitchen sink to get that fight going your way. It's unfortunate. If Red 2 had buyback, that fight looks so much different. You're probably able to kill that Faceless Void. You're probably not going to get punished. It's one less target to get doomed, but it really shows how key the Darkseer has been to these fights. He's been the one really causing so much heartache for the Hokori side, and now I really don't think that Hokori are feeling just as safe as they were a few minutes ago, as with all these buybacks already expended. If they stick their necks out and they get punished for it, it's going to look really bad, and I don't think they're going to be forced either. Did he get the wave? Yeah, he got the wave, so no backdoor for a few moments, but I don't even know if this is Rax.
Thing is, yeah, at this point, if you're Hokori, sure, you're the team that controls the field at the end of the day, right? But you use the buybacks, as you mentioned, but even before the buybacks were expended, you had Aegis and Cheese going into that fight. So, yeah, you get those kills. It is big for you, but as you said, resources had to be expended, and, well, you were the team that was supposed to... You were supposed to have the advantage going into that fight, so the fact that they have Aegis and Cheese really sort of spelled out a more beneficial end result there. They just barely sort of slip away with that victory, and now they have to be extremely careful. They are still ahead. They push that lead forward to about 7k, but as you said, not going to be Rax, not even going to be the tier 3. They don't bring it down, so if you're the cut, you just sort of shrug this off. That was not a big deal for them in terms of, the punishment after the fight.
And now, right, like I said earlier, we're barreling towards that situation where 25 is going to be on the table for the Storm Spirit. Ags is going to be on the table for the Storm Spirit. And without buybacks, I can almost guarantee you that Hokori are going to play slightly different. They're not going to be as confident. Of course, as I say that, they're going to smoke up, but I think they're going to try and get a little bit of vision down, and that's really the only reason they would do this. Whereas the cut, they've got to feel so much better about making this play. Red 2 still doesn't have buyback. He needs to farm it up a little further, but you're the team with the Wraith King. You can afford to sort of break here, and they both broke.
They're going to jump in. They take down Pingu right away, but oh, there's going to be the response. Oh, no, maybe not. Garda coming in with the RP. Well played. That's going to be Lumiere setting up for the Chronosphere as well. Pingu and Giant both dead. Red 2 taken down, and they're just going to get completely wiped out here. Scourge is still standing, but all of his backup's gone. The Doom is now going to get applied to him as... Actually, no. They doomed an illusion of the Faceless, but it's not going to matter. Scourge still gets taken down. There's a second Doom available at this point, and it will be deployed, as that Wraith King really has no way out at this point. Tingle King cannot help him. He just has to sit back and watch as his buddy dies. And that's going to be 4 dead. Tingle now not able to get himself out either. He's got 5 seconds left for the Surge, and he's not going to live long enough to even try. As Analog hits him up with the Laguna into the last bit of damage. Double kill for the Lina. And the cut, that goes horribly.
Yes, and it really was the worst way to start off that fight. You put the Ice Vortex up on the hill, you see a Faceless Void, you do a double take, and then you realize, no, that's real, and this is what's happening. And everything just coming out from Hokori. That was the first Blink RP we got of the game. Yeah, they're hitting T4s, they're forcing buys.
Going for the win. They will force the buyback, and now, yeah, okay. It's just a fake out play. They will back themselves off. Buybacks coming out from both Scourge and Tingle.
And now you just need to run at them. They don't have Chrono. They don't have either of their Dooms. You need to get something out of this if you're the cut. And while you are definitely putting yourself at a little bit of risk here, you do finally have buyback on the Storm Spirit. Maybe you try to make a baiting play. The cut, they just need to get something done at this point. Because really, if they wait for these cooldowns to come back up, there's going to be a situation where the cooldowns, or rather the buybacks coming back up on the Hokori side, really, they're just waiting for the Doom in 3 minutes. After that, they're going to have such a big advantage over you. I don't know if the cut are going to be able to take it. So yeah, they need to smoke up. They need to get something.
Right. And it feels a little bit weird considering the fact that they just sort of lost so much, but as you said, with the Chrono down, with the RP unavailable, with both the Dooms gone, relative to your opponent's strength, this is the best position the cut are probably have been in over the past maybe 5 minutes or so. So they're going to give it a go, smoking up. They spot Lumiere, but they can't actually jump him. That was their opportunity. Scourge is going to keep on pushing forward, but at this point the moment's passed, and he needs to be careful that he doesn't go too far in himself, as the defusal will be deployed. Going to slow him down momentarily. Still holding on to that BKB, though, so Scourge should be okay. As Tingle looking for... tried to go in there with the vacuum, but Vitaly pushing his way forward, but again, no Doom to deploy. So it's a nifty little move onto the Darkseer, but it's not actually going to turn into an initiation.
And all of those spells up in basically 10 seconds here. You're going to have the double Doom. You're going to have this Chronosphere. And the only way I think they can sort of spin this fight in their direction is if they somehow find Vitaly first. Otherwise, everything is just going to go south side up. They might even put Vitaly in the Chronosphere just so that way nobody can hit him. All of their cores don't really do that much damage from afar. It just feels like you need some god tier play coming in from Tiggle King and Giant at this point to get the game in their direction. And they see them with the ward, they're running directly at them, but at the same time, it feels like they're just going to keep dodging. Lumiere!
Lumiere, though, he's been caught. He's hit up by the Hex. The Ice Blast is coming through. Can they lock him down in time? No. BKB will be deployed. Lumiere is going to be able to fall back, and at this point, they've got to be careful. He has the double Chrono here, so they don't want to force the fight, but they are going to, and that Chrono is not great. Lumiere is actually going to just TP himself away. Meanwhile, El Misho caught out further to the west, so the cut honestly take that one fairly well. That Chrono would have been potentially risky, but Red 2 was able to dodge it, and they find the kill. They burn through one of those two Chronos, and well, let's see what they can do off the back of this. They're going to try to push their way bot as Scourge is sort of leading this charge, but his teammates are not directly behind them, so I don't know exactly what's going to come of this, but they are now making their way over. Another smoke play coming out. Can they find a target? They need to get into the middle lane, as they do spot out Gardic. Magnus in some trouble. He's going to get double stunned, and he's just straight up dead. Scourge.
Oh, another. Lumiere.
Oop, that's quite the crit, but now, yeah, Lumiere in some trouble. BKB is available, though, so he will be able to pop it. And actually not needing it just yet. Gardic, meanwhile, committing the buyback, so that RP is available once again. And if you're the cut, this is where you need to be a little bit more careful. You are going into Chrono and RP, or I say Chrono, that's assuming he refreshes it at this point, which, if he gets an opportunity, he almost certainly will go in for that play.
And everything just feels so risky. That's why everyone is so tense. And with Roche respawning in 20 seconds, I don't think either team can really afford to give it up at this point. But having to push into Pingu, into all the ice vortexes, they have to be a little bit scared on the Hokori side. If they do lose the Doom, if they do lose really anyone before they get their spells off, the fight could definitely go in the enemy team's direction, and this is exactly what the cut want. Especially Red 2 finishing up his Aghanim Scepter most likely right before sort of the penultimate moment. He might save for buyback, but if I'm him, yeah, he's just buying it out completely. No holds barred, really, at this point. Actually, wait, hold up. He sold it back. Okay, he's being a little indecisive, but it's no time for fear, but they're smoked up on the Hokori side. They're trying to find a freebie. Vitaly making his way in. They're going to look for the lockdown. Abyssal Blade, though, will be deployed, but Lumiere is in with the Chrono. Pingu dead. Red 2 going to be falling as well. Buybacks coming out immediately as the cut realize they have to try and take this fight, but Scourge was actually hit up by the Doom. He does have the reincarnation, but that sort of takes him out of that first fight, and now he is going to be coming back up. Can they lock him down a second time? No, not right now. Red 2 actually jumping in onto the back line, looking to get this going, but he jumps directly into the Doom. There is no longer any play for him to make. He's going to try to run down Analog, so technically there was a play, but here it comes. The RP connecting El Misho in there with the Earth Spike onto 2 as well, and this one's going to start falling apart. Red 2 down for the count. They're going to lose Giant as well. He will immediately buy back, but there's going to be the second Chrono
locking down actually no one, as Scourge was not caught up in it, but his teammates are still dropping around him. They're going to be able to take down Pingu here, and the rest of the cut just have to desperately fall back. They do still have 3 heroes alive, but at this point there are 0 buybacks available, and the Wraith King just had to wait for reincarnation as well. A couple of seconds on that cooldown, so he TPs himself back home just to make sure he's not going to get caught out.
Well, and unfortunately, Lumiere really whiffing. That would have been the end gamer right there. If he was able to get Scourge McDuck in that Chronosphere, you had Analog really just getting all the DPS he could. He was hitting from the low ground, doing whatever he can. And while you do have this Aghanim Scepter, you do have this Aegis, it feels incredibly safe to be Hokori right now. I can't imagine you're happy that the game is still going on. While their position isn't the worst, it definitely feels like this game should be over, but it just plain isn't. And now there's no reason for him not to get the Ags on Red 2. Nobody has buybacks. And this is when Dota starts to get wonky. This is when really anything can happen. There's 8,000 gold on your Wraith King. I wonder what he's going to do with that. Giant has the Aghanim Scepter. It's really 1 or 2 Carapace stuns. There's so many factors at play now that the game really starts to get chaotic at this point.
Yeah, this is always the point here, coming up on that sort of 50-plus minute mark, where a lot of conventional wisdom is maybe not useless, but certainly a little bit less directly sort of applicable here. So anything goes when we get this late into the game. We'll see if Hokori can sort of keep this one going. They have their opponents really on the back foot, but as you mentioned, on the back foot is nice, but if Lumiere hits one of those Chronos onto anyone, then this game is pretty much over. So some missed opportunities, but he is going to get the Chrono back up in about 50 seconds. That refresher should be online as well. Vitaly pretty much in the exact same position. So sure, they miss an opportunity. They could have ended the game right there straight up, but they're going into this next fight. They've got Aegis, they've got Cheese, they've got 2 Chronos, they've got 2 Dooms. So really, if they execute this one correctly, they should still be in line to close this out. But the fact that you have given the cut even one more opportunity to try and pull it back is a little bit concerning. We'll see what the cut can do with this one shot at redemption.
And I'm not sure what he ended up spending his gold on Scourge, but he spent at least a little chunk of it. I'm not sure who he gave it to or what he really spent it on, but 100 gold away from that Aghanim Scepter on the Storm Spirit. But now we're really, I think, going to see these buybacks wipe the board. Of course, this is going to heavily favor Hokori, as once you don't have, or rather, once you have the buybacks all back, you still have those Chronospheres, you still have 2 Chronos, you still have 2 Dooms. You're really able to, I think, contend with the buybacks. It doesn't really matter if you use your spells on a hero twice, just because you literally have 2 of them. But I think Hokori are now going to look to finally translate the map into more of their direct control. We're still waiting on 2 tier 2 towers to get taken up. They sort of need to finish the job in that essence. Otherwise, coming up on a few level 30s, we're really getting towards that ultra late game stage.
Yeah, if you're Hokori, now is the time. Actually, no, now is not the time. The time was probably somewhere in the last maybe 10 to 20 minutes to try and take this control of the map, but they do have the opportunity now, and as we said before, it's unfortunate. You're going to give your opponents at least one more chance, but if you can take more control of this map, you make that final opportunity much more of a long shot for the cut. As we see the tier 2 tower taken in the bottom lane, and Lumiere, he's going to do a little bit of maybe poking and prodding here, just going to test those defenses up on the high ground. Scourge, though, out in front. He is taking a pretty substantial amount of damage. A Missile Blade stun, though, does come in onto the Faceless Void. The Hex going to be deployed as well into the Ice Blast, but Lumiere not dead yet, able to time walk himself out of there. He did get hit up by that blast, though, so he doesn't have all of that sort of HP regen off of the time walk. As Red 2, oh my god. Okay. That is a hell of a zip, but he was going for the TP the whole time, so he's already back in the fountain by the time anyone would have been in position to punish him.
Yep, and it's just incredibly obnoxious, especially this parallel wall. It just extends, well, it extends about the same, but if you get stuck in there, you just have to walk through it a few too many times, and these Void Illusions do a lot of damage. You have to be incredibly scared. You do have the Lion, and El Misho has been very good with the Mana Drain, always prepped to make sure that there's nothing too bad happening with that illusion, as it isn't a strong illusion. But still, you're giving a little bit of hope to the cut, letting their buybacks reset at this rate. We're really going to see the board sort of cleared in 2 minutes and 40 seconds here for them.
Scourge.
At the same time, you have to be careful. Scourge,
Wandering his way forward, gonna get hexed up, finger deployed. That's gonna be the reincarnation taken down. Can they kill him off a second time? Lumiere, okay, he's just gonna straight up drop the chrono, and this Wraith King has no backup. There's no one in the same zip code to save him as he's taken down.
He does have buyback, but still, it makes you wonder what happened there. I'm glad none of his teammates sort of got baited into helping him, but at the same time, there's no reason for Hokori not to sort of go up at this point. Dalmisha's giving him a little bit of mana on the Faceless Void. There is going to be an opportunity. Maybe Lumiere is going to lose this Aegis in just a few moments here, but ooh, Red 2 missed the wave.
Ice Blast.
They glyphed just in case.
Ice Blast actually went all the way up to the top lane as they are trying to split push that out, but right now, they have other concerns. That Aegis does expire, but Hokori continue to push their way forward. They take the entire middle lane of the Rax. Giant, he's doing everything he can here. He's throwing out the mana burns, hitting him up with the impales, just burrowed on the back line, doing some sort of StarCraft-esque plays there, but it's not really going to be enough. They still lose that middle lane of Rax, and Hokori at this point haven't fully backed off. In fact, Lumiere, he's going to time walk, never mind. Time walks in, immediately backs himself away, but once he realizes no one's actually up here, they're going to go for it. Tier 3 tower dropping once again, and the cut are starting to run out of time here. That's 2 full lanes of Rax that they're going to be losing. And the Wraith King, at this point, he's still not alive. He's going to need that buyback if they really want to take the engagement, but Hokori do actually have to sort of address this concern over in the top lane. That entire top lane of Rax was taken by the split push play. So I guess the cut do manage to sort of strike somewhere on the map, but I'm not really sure that's worth what they give up on their own side, as their defenses are starting to fall apart.
Well, and it's very interesting because at the same time, they also lost their bottom racks. So they're surprisingly even on racks right now and weren't forced to use Scourge's buyback. It's a little bit surprising that Hokori took the pedal off of the metal at that point, because you really could have pushed in, forced something out of this Wraith King, and I feel like gotten out relatively scotch-free, but again, there's so much respect right now that Hokori are giving the cut. They don't want to throw away this game. They don't want to play sort of into their field. And going into this ultra late game, it's going to feel pretty bad, I think. As Hokori, with their BKBs as low as they are, if they get chain stunned by this Nyx Assassin, and having this Ice Blast, there are definitely a lot of tools that the cut still have available to them. And with all of their buybacks coming up in just a few moments here, I think that they're aiming to even just defend this tower. They want to catch Hokori off guard in some respect.
Worth pointing out at this point, Vitali did get himself a Hex, and with that refresher, that could potentially, potentially be a double Hex. As Lumiere, what are you doing? That's too far forward. He is going to drop the chrono, though, so maybe he can turn this one around. They need to be able to get that damage in, though. They're looking to take the Darkseer out as quickly as they can. Second chrono will be deployed. Tingle King taken down. Pingu falling as well. Buybacks now flying through from the cut, though, as they realize they've got to try and turn this fight around. Gardic, though, coming in with the RP, connecting onto 2, as Vitali is going to be able to drop the Doom down onto the Nyx Assassin. The problem is, he can't actually survive the fight that follows. Scourge is just going straight in with him, with the damage, rather, onto him, and they are going to be able to find that kill. Vitali taken down. Analog died, bought back as well.
And unfortunately, Analog did just sort of knee-jerk bot back. He wanted to get back out on the map at the same time. Tingle King and AA, both of them had to use their buybacks. Pingu, maybe not the happiest with that one, but they still had that tier 2 tower. They were immediately able to TP up there. They got back into that fight so fast. Usually in these late game situations, you'll see heroes TPing in at the outpost, trying to desperately get into the fight, TPing in with boots of travel. And that's when maybe you just can't get into the fight because you're literally too far away. But it was just an immediate response. And now, if they kill this Lina, she's just gone. At the same time, there's no chrono for 90 seconds. If there was ever a moment for the cut to sort of do whatever they can, now is that moment. I don't know if they're going to necessarily just push down, no cares, but something like that has to come out from them.
As of right now, it looks like Scourge is planning to do exactly that. He's just making his way mid. If no one comes to stop him, he's got the damage. He could push through this final lane of Rax. So Lumiere going to make his way forward. He clears through pretty much all of that creep wave, though, with that proc on the time walk. So for now, at least that removes that threat. But Hokori, at this point, they're still ahead by 30,000 net worth, but they're the team back inside of their own base at the moment. So the cut have just refused to go away. They are sort of fighting tooth and nail every possible avenue that they have back into this game. They're trying to explore, and I mean, they have a shot at it, really. Oh god, the net worth at this point does not matter, as we do have a pause coming out.
Well, and it's just ultimate respect, if anything, coming out from Hokori. They're sort of biding their time. Almost, I wish they wouldn't bide their time. I wish this game would sort of see its finality. I feel like the game could have very well ended several times, but just some outstanding performances, mainly from this Nyx Assassin, even from Lumiere and this performance of pause remaining for the cut, but as well as this Doom. Vitaly has been finding these targets time and time again, but in that fight, it felt like he wasn't able to live through that second BKB. It was just the immediate chain stun coming in from Giant. It was a stun from the grave as well, almost, because he immediately got doomed. You got doomed while you were burrowed into the ground, so you're just a living ward at that point. There's not much you can do in that situation. And unfortunately, they're not forcing out really as much as they would like. I think if you are the cut, this chrono is sort of just ticking down at its own rate. But if you kill this Lena, if you focus her down hard enough, she will definitely die in a vortex. She definitely cannot get saved by her team. At that point, it's up to really Gardic to sort of get that RP. And he landed a 2-man RP there, but it was onto a Wraith King that was already dying and had reincarnation. And it was on a Nyx Assassin that was doomed. And if Hokori want to win this game, I think they need to just get a few more disables on the right targets, and then it should just be over. But I feel like I've been saying that for the past 30 minutes.
Yeah, that is... Unfortunately, I think that has been the case. We've been saying for Hokori, one more fight, one more victory, one more good play onto X, Y, and Z, and they've got this. That has not been the case. Of course, they haven't exactly been able to pull things off with the level of execution that we were expecting, but the fact of the matter is they've had so many opportunities right now to sort of put this game away. You take a look at the net worth graph here, nearly 58 minutes in. They've been ahead for so long in this match, but they haven't been able to put their opponents to bed here as Scourge taking quite a bit of damage there in the middle lane. Time walk forward from Lumiere. He's going to pop the BKB as well, but the Abyssal Blade will be deployed. Scourge not dead yet, but the Reincarnation will now be activated. Lumiere is going to preemptively throw down that ult, and they are looking for the kill. Can they bring the Wraith King down a second time? They're certainly going for it. Another Chrono going to be thrown out there just to make sure that they can secure that one, as the Wraith King will go down. Buying back immediately, though, as this fight will continue. Ice Blast flying through into the river. They will connect onto Lumiere. Now they're going to try and get in onto Analog. That is so many damn walls. 4 walls across the battlefield here, but it's not quite enough just yet. Red 2 will be taken down, but they do get Analog, and he has no buyback. That is a crucial kill for the cut, and now they'll push their way forward. Lumiere taken down as well. He's dead for 2 minutes. He has his buyback, but his teammates are on the run. El Misho's going to get tracked down here. He does have the Aeon Disc to try and keep himself alive, but it's not going to be enough. Red 2 back into the fight after the buyback, and this may just be the cut's moment to really, claim this one for their own. That is a massive teamfight win for them.
And Roshan is available if they want to go there. It's going to be an Aghanim Scepter most likely on the darks here at this point, but this game has just gone completely wild. If anything, this is going to be Megas, at least for the cut. I don't know if they're going to be able to eke out the victory, going for Roche and the end. Yeah, Rapier on Lumiere.
Okay, we are approaching that sort of desperation point here. Lumiere doesn't think that there's much else he can buy that's really going to have that same impact, and I think he might be right, really. There's nothing more for him to buy at this stage. We saw 2 Chronos deployed. They got through the Wraith King, but the buybacks were just too much for them to handle. So this is really the last-ditch effort. We'll see if it works out. Meanwhile, Aegis in the hands of that Storm Spirit. He just used his buyback, so they will get that into his hands, while the Refresher Shard was actually taken by the Storm as well.
And really, there's no better timing. You don't have Chrono for another 65 seconds, either Chrono, and they're just going to have to let themselves get Megas here. I can't imagine they stick their necks out really any further than whatever Lumiere is doing, but still, it's a massive risk for you even to walk up to the wave, and whether or not this game ends, they don't push incredibly fast, but it's up to Red 2. If Red 2 is able to find a double Vortex on a hero that doesn't have buyback, the Doom or the Void, there's a very fast end to Hokori's story in this game, but it looks like the cut, they want to be safe. They don't want to lose this game either, but 14 seconds on Analog on the Lena.
Just have to try and hold. Scourge, though, pushed his way through that final lane of Rags. So the Megas have been acquired. Not sure they want to push all the way in onto the tier 4s just yet. They see that Lena is respawning, so they're going to pull it back at least just a little bit here. Try and regroup outside of their opponent's base, and maybe if they're lucky, sort of pull Hokori forward into some sort of bait. Oh, another pause coming out here. We saw earlier on the cut were starting to run a little bit low on time. They had 4 minutes left, and the pause that came afterwards was maybe another 20 to 30 seconds off of that, so they've got to be a little bit careful here. I don't think there's too big of a problem. No one's actually DC'd immediately, so hopefully this is just a short pause, but okay, yeah. Short pause indeed, as Pingu says they're ready to go. And the game will get back underway, but at this point, if you're the cut, you've got to know you are maybe one more teamfight win away from closing out this game, as Tier 5 items are now starting to come into play.
Yeah.
Apex picked up by Wraith King right away.
In Apex, it doesn't feel the best, but it's definitely not bad. Fallen Sky, that is a huge neutral item to find, and it's these tier 5. Sometimes when we see a team locked in the base with megas, we'll have to have someone venture out to find those tier 5 items, as we don't have anything coming out. But Giant's Ring, that's the item. We've got a big Wraith King.
He's massive. Oh, man. Scourge with, what, 4750 in terms of the HP, and really, if he gets into that fight, that trample, it does tend to make a bit of a difference. It's not going to win you the fight in and of itself, but no one can really afford to just sort of stand directly up against you. And as you were sort of saying here, would not be surprised to see Hokori try and send somebody out to farm up their own tier 5s, but as of right now, nobody's leaving the base.
And that's sort of the issue with these megas. You have to sort of give this respect out. Even Vendetta, unobstructed pathing, Giant can really be anywhere at any time, call out these movements. That's where I think we see El Misho running towards, trying to get something out for his base. I believe he took the ninja gear for a second there, just so he could have that single person smoke. But the advantage of these tier 5s give, it really is massive. And yeah, you see he's farming up, trying to find something, and that's where Giant, he might be able to find the pick.
Giant is hunting him down. He's got the eyes on. Ooh, good blink from El Misho, keeping him safe for the time being. Ice Blast is not going to hit much of anything. It looks like El Misho will be able to get away. The problem is, he came out here to try and farm up neutral items, and instead, he has to dodge the gank and TP himself back home.
And it's very unfortunate because he sort of gave himself away with the Stormcrafter. Yeah, you see now Giant has slotted the Stormcrafter into the backpack. That's what gave it away on that neutral camp, and it didn't land on the Lion, so he was able to just simply blink away. But still, you have to be very, very scared. You want these T5 items. You want to get that sort of huge turnaround. If there was an Apex on this Void, if there was an Ex Machina, well, they're so scary.
Lumiere forced to fall back. He's still got to protect that Rapier. It's been several minutes now since he actually purchased that up, but can't really forget, if he gets caught out, well, losing the Rapier, and especially giving it into the hands of even someone like the Wraith King, is going to be just devastating. As Scourge, oh my lord, jumping in onto El Misho, not able to lock him down immediately though. That disc comes in, Red 2 though, zipping his way into the fight, able to get the Electric Vortex down onto 2. He's going to try to refresh it, but Gardic in there with the RP. Can they turn this fight around? Red 2 actually not going to get caught in the chrono, as Lumiere jumps in onto the next assassin first. They'll take down Giant. They're going to try to get Tingle King as well, but his own disc will keep him safe, refreshing it now as well. But Lumiere in with the second Chronosphere. He is just trying desperately to get any kills that he can, as that Darkseer is dropping low. Tingle King taken down, but by this point we see the Wraith King actually with the Aghanim Scepter, so that is going to buy a little bit of extra time for the Darkseer to be in this engagement. But his teammates starting to run a little bit low on life, but they do still have the Aegis to work with. That is going to get the Storm Spirit back into the game, but at this point, I think they might have taken it. Yeah,
they've got the Void, they've got the Doom.
No buyback on either, so it's down to Analog to pull off some sort of miracle here, but they lost the Rapier. Who, if anyone, actually picked that up? No, nobody's got it. Is it still just on the ground?
Yep,
yeah,
it's still just on the ground. Nobody has space, and now I really just think this is going to be the game. They don't have buyback on either hero. Maybe you get a skewer play, something like that, but they're just going to go and kill you.
Jumping in immediately. Tingle is there for that Hex once again. He's been on point with that lockdown all game long, and at this point it's too late. Oh, okay. Not quite yet. The glyph will be deployed, but at this point I can't really imagine this making much of a difference. Nice skewer from Gardic, pulling Giant into the fountain, but at this point the Ancient's still going down. Scourge and Tingle gonna focus in on that objective, and they will bring it down. 64.5 minutes. But the cut, pull it back. They were down by 30,000 net worth. They do manage to pull this off.
And it's hard to really sum up that game, but it felt like Hokori had so many opportunities to really close that game out. It felt like there were so many opportunities where this game should have just ended, cut and dry, but the cut wouldn't give it up. They kept on, even in a losing situation, getting the trade somehow, whether it was Tingle King getting those vacuum into Hex plays. Really, before that, it felt like Hokori just kept on owning them, but it was the vacuum Hex plays that really crawled the map back. And really, Hokori, not even a knock at their execution. They were trying to get so much done. They had the refreshers. They itemized for so many spells so early, and it just didn't work out. the cut just brought them to that super late game situation. They forced around the buybacks, and if anything, it was very opportune several times. Hokori, I felt like they really could have ended the game, but they just simply couldn't. The cut, just what a crazy turnaround for that game. I mean, 50k net worth on your Wraith King. Ugh, feel sick even talking about it.
Yeah, how much damage are we looking at here? 61,000 for the Wraith King, 55k for your Darkseer as well. So Tingle, I mean, if you're looking for an MVP, it's right there. That Darkseer, absolutely massive. As you sort of mentioned, those vac wall plays, obviously the benefit you were looking for, but the hexes were just perfect. Almost every single time, if the cut were winning the fight, is because Tingle got a clutch hex onto some sort of prime target. So the cut, I mean, they persevere, right? We talked way back, or what feels like way back, at the start of this series, the fact that they were sort of slotting into that underdog role. A lot of teams, and to a certain extent, even sort of you and me, were sort of writing them off a little bit, already sort of labeling them as the team that's going to have the problems. Their recent production has been questionable. They've got 2 stand-ins, so it's an easy sort of situation to just sort of discount them and write them off, but the cut improving here with this Game 2 victory that you can't necessarily overlook them. They fought so damn hard to get themselves back into this game, and the persistence pays off. They're able to make it happen.
Yeah, couldn't say it better myself.
With that in mind, we're done for the day. That was our final match, and what a match it was. Well played by the cut as they do salvage that 1-1 split. So, points on the board. At the end of the day, that's got to be the mantra, right? Just get every little bit that you can. But that will do it for us here on day 2 of the group stage. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me and ET, watching a little bit of Dota. Before we hop away, though, we do have to put in a shout out here to the sponsor for this event. Once again, thank you so much to LootBet for stepping in, serving as the main sponsor for this tournament and allowing us to put together this sort of mixed NA and SA field. It's been pretty exciting so far, and LootBet have been a pretty large part of that, as got ourselves a bit of a message from LootBet as well. New users on LootBet can get a 100% bonus on their first deposit of up to 150 euros. Use code PRO on loot.bet. That's PRO, P-R-O, to get yourself that promotion. Existing users, meanwhile, can also find more promotions when they visit loot.bet as well. So, something for everyone if you're looking to get into that betting scene. As always, though, do remember to bet responsibly, but go out there, have some fun, courtesy of LootBet. LootBet, thank you so much for helping us put this event together. So, with that being said, that's it. Day 2 done and dusted. A hell of a cap there to the schedule with that final game. Congratulations to the cut as they get that 1-1 split. So, that is all for myself and for ET. We'll be signing off here. So, thank you all one final time. And we will see you tomorrow afternoon for even more action. Day 3 of that group stage going to be coming up.